Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
It's 25 minutes now after 7 o'clock as we begin to talk HR with Hermab on a Wednesday morning. Glad to be joined this morning as we take a look at mental health by Kadisha Haynes, who is a human resource officer, and with her too is a human resource executive in Nicole Gollop. Good morning, ladies. Thank you so much for joining us. Now listen, when we talk mental health, right away somebody thinks that, hey, we're talking madness. But that's not so at all. What is, from your position, their mental health, Nicole? Describe it for us, especially within the work context. Nicole, can you hear me? All right, let's see if they can get the ladies to hear me now. Nicole, calling Nicole once, twice, and thrice. I guess not. So let's see if we can get that worked out technically, and we'll get back to the ladies in just a moment. But we're talking mental health here as we talk HR with Hermab. Nicole, can you hear me now?
Yeah. Good morning. Yes, I'm hearing you now.
All right, Nicole, put your hand to the camera. Let me smack it. There you go. All right. When we're talking mental health here now, what are we talking about?
Oh, when we're talking of mental health, we're talking about the individual's emotional, psychological, and social well-being. How an individual is able to cope with stress, everyday stress, how they interact with others, how they make choices, how they think, how they process, and deal with the external environment.
Some would say to you, as an employer, that has nothing to do with me. What you manage as an individual has everything to do with you. Is that a fair response?
Not necessarily, because when you're working in an organization, you're working with others, interacting with others. So in terms of how you interact and interpersonal skills with others, it might be a case where there's conflict. If conflict is generated, how are you going to deal with it within your workforce? So in terms of dealing with stress and managing stress, you have to encourage or create a culture to deal with stress within your organization. So it does have to do with you as well. Mental health has to do with everyone.
Yeah, indeed. Kadisha, there are times when you see people turn up for work and you're thinking, why are you coming with this bad mood? As if we've done you something. But oftentimes it is really the place that might have created this condition that you're faced with. So can you explain to me that relationship between a healthy working environment, Kadisha, and good mental health? No, Kadisha can't hear me. It seems like Kadisha can't hear me. Kadisha. Do I have to shout your name out loudly? Kadisha, can you hear me now? She has such a lovely smile. Let's see if Kadisha, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Good. So now let's talk about
The
that
audio is
relationship.
very low.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. Let's talk about that relationship between a healthy working environment and one's good mental health. What do you see that relationship to be?
Okay, so we spend so much time at work, and I know Nicole would have spoken about the emotional, psychological, and emotional well-being that comprises mental health. So because we spend so much time in the work environment, and majority of our relationships are at work, majority of our interactions are at work, and these interactions and the physical environment as well heavily influence the way that our mental health feels. Essentially, that is why there will be a relationship between a healthy work environment and one's mental health. And when we talk about a healthy work environment, we're talking about an environment that's physically safe to the employee feels comfortable in the environment, as well as one that feels psychologically safe. So such characteristics such as accountability, trust within the organization among colleagues, as well as among trust in the organization to take care of you, as well as feeling connected to the environment, feeling connected to the organization's purpose, feeling inspired, being able to take initiative, feeling as though there is possibilities for growth in the organization, and feeling supported overall by the organization. All of those things come together to help one's mental health feel good within the organization. And it's found through research that people essentially, once you have a healthy environment, you do have those things that I just spoke about, then people tend to have higher levels of like positive mental health.
There's an employer who would say, all right, all well and good, I can do that, but you're not a baby, so I'm not going to be here to baby you to create the perfect storm that you can live through. What do you say about that one? And then what are some of the things that we need as employers to get right so that we do create that space where people feel to thrive and to feel as if they belong?
Well, the key thing when we speak about mental health for the organization to ensure that they get right is to cultivate awareness. So you want to ensure that employees are educated and have resources to become educated about mental health. You also want to ensure that you train your managers, you train your leaders, because different people will have different levels of mental health, and people also have mental health conditions. So you also want to ensure that when you're creating awareness, that you also let people know what mental health conditions are, what mental health is essentially, and also that you create a safe space for persons who may have a mental health condition so that they feel okay to come and speak about it. And one way to do this is to encourage leaders to speak about their mental health or their mental health challenges so that then you lead by example. Employees feel like, okay, well, if this manager spoke about their challenges and they spoke about getting help and you see the positive result, then employees will also feel safe to do so. You also want to make sure that you have good workplace policies surrounding mental health so that you know that should anyone discriminate or treat another employee badly because of a mental health condition, that is penalizing. You kind of deter people away from treating people badly once they do say, hey, I have a mental health condition. Also, you want to have a very, very flexible working model. So for example, we hear people talking about people who are neurotypical versus people who are neurodiverse. And neurodiverse will be those group of people who their brains just work differently. So they make people that have ADHD, autism, dyslexia, and you want to make sure that your workplace is flexible and can cater to the way that they may learn and that they may work, and that you're not only focusing on what you would consider to be the normal or to the typical, and that you also have leaders who will stand up and speak up about having these conditions as well and creating an environment of safety. So for example, Richard Branson speaks very openly about his challenges with dyslexia and provides an environment where his employees can feel safe to stand up and say, hey, I have dyslexia and these are my challenges, and then kind of find a way to work around that so that those persons still thrive in the organization. And then also you want to make sure that your initiatives also take into consideration gender, because we find that our men get left out of the mental health conversation, or they may not have the same support. So you also want to pay attention to the men in the organization and make sure that you listen to what they need, because mental health treatment for them might look different than it might for a woman or what they want. So you want to tune into that, get them involved in the conversation, have male leaders standing up and speaking up so that those employees can stand up and seek out help. We've seen that throughout COVID, the incidences of suicide among men has really increased. So also when I talk about training the leaders, you want to make sure that people can kind of pinpoint when an employee may be showing signs of depression, when an employee may be showing signs of anxiety, and to the level that it is beyond just everyday depression or everyday anxiety. And then this is where you would provide these supports for the employees through, be it counseling. You have virtual counseling as well as in-person counseling now. So there's flexibility in that. And then providing access to free screenings. Many people go for years without ever being diagnosed with ADHD, but they just know that they don't understand the organization, or they're just not working like other people. So having free screenings will be another way for people to kind of get themselves checked out, see what's wrong, and then be able to address and cater things to them. That makes a big difference, as well as mindfulness, giving employees access to mindfulness tools, mindfulness apps, as well as providing gym membership, because we know that our mind and body is very heavily connected, and once people exercise, it tends to also be significantly improve their mental health.
Now listen, you're adding to my cost when you're asking me to provide all of this. And I can hear an employer thinking, I hear you, young lady. But there's a cost to doing all of that. But there's also a cost to not doing all of that as well. But underpinning all of it is trust, because there's a lot of vulnerability when one opens up and say, I'm struggling here. I have a mental issue. There's a problem with me. And while for Richard Branson it's easy as the leader, the owner, for him to put his hand in the air and says, I'm dyslexic, a lot of people will feel, I'm not going to reveal that to a soul. I will just manage this on my own. So trust is going to be critical so that vulnerability is diminished. That's from the employer's point of view. From the employee's point of view now, Nicole, what can employees do so that we create that environment where it's safe to feel that I can, in spite of my mental condition, thrive?
Let me start by saying that you are responsible for your own mental health. Working, and when you're going into the workplace, you have certain responsibilities, and to make sure that you do those responsibilities, you have to do things to make sure that your mental health is taken care of, because we are living in a stressful world right now. One of two things: prayer and meditation. I love to start with that. Prayer and meditation, in terms of getting to know yourself, connecting with your spirituality, understand your values, spend time. I would like to say the 3 R's: spend time reflecting, reset, and rejuvenate. Sometimes I think we're always on the go, but sometimes we need to take time for self, and self-care is important. Connecting with your family and friends, because sometimes some persons, the life of the party. But even though they life of the party, they're going through so much. Continue what Kadisha is saying, you will find that in terms of the suicide rate, there's so many social media influencers that commit suicide. But when you hear, I would never expect, they're the life of the party. But even though somebody's the life of the party, they're still experiencing stuff. I call it the duck in the pond situation. You see a duck gliding, but underneath they're battling. So connect with your friends and your family. Check in. As Beijing national hero was said, pull up on your family and friends. Seriously, pull up and check on them. Just go to say hello, how you're doing. Make them feel valued. Health and nutrition is important. Yoga, music, do something that you always wanted to do. Some persons like poetry and journaling, do journaling. But pretty much spending time with yourself, knowing yourself, and being mindful and aware of what triggers your stresses in life. Once you're mindful and aware of that, you'll be able to manage it properly. If you're not able to manage it properly, seek professional help, as Khadija said.
The work condition now is so stressful. The push for productivity, the push for production, the push for revenue, the push, period. And so lots of people are finding it difficult. Then you're challenged by, I need to retain the job because the possibilities are so slim today. And so you live with this minute by minute. And so it's important that as people coming together in one space for a good portion of the day, at least 8 hours of the day, that you do find that space to make yourselves happy in spite of, and the understanding by the employer that you have to allow that to obtain, because oftentimes employers look at that and think, y'all are wasting time where you should have been this or that. Why are you spending so much time gathering in the corridor gossiping where you really ought to be at your desk doing something as a response to a call or an email? But there is that balance that we're talking about, because so many people are stressed out and it affects their mental health, and we become reserved, particularly men. You're quite right, Kadisha, particularly men who reserve and don't say a word and then just act at the same time. So Kadisha, what do you say to someone, and I want to speak specifically to men today who are finding themselves in a condition that is beginning to feel unbearable and untenable?
Can you please repeat? I didn't catch it.
Listen to me. I was asking, what do you
The
say
audio
today?
is not playing with us today.
That's all right. To men who find themselves in a position where they feel as if, everything just feels unreal. This is not working out somehow. And to avoid them having to take the next step to take action that we all don't want.
Well, definitely to seek help, and seeking help may look different for different people. And just know that as it relates particularly to counseling, when you seek out counseling, that's a confidential relationship. So you don't
Mm-hmm.
have to let anyone know that you're going to do counseling. We're also very social beings. So I think being active, it might be something like playing basketball, playing football. I find that men seem to prefer, in some cases, physical release, and that helps them to settle their mental health. So going to the gym, those are all things that you can do to kind of
Right.
negate the negative of when life gets hard and it gets rough, and also seek out groups, seek out a support group. I know a lot in the church they might have male support groups, so men will come together and they might discuss challenges that they're going through. So then you kind of get the understanding that other people are going through this as well. It's not only you, and you actually go to someone who would provide the support, or people that might specialize in particularly treating and dealing with men, and you can
Mm-hmm.
always ask for recommendations for people that might have a preference or specialty in dealing with men's health. I know, like for example, Janelle Chase Mears does a wonderful work both with families and individuals, and she just have a strong focus on men because she recognizes the need for men to come out and be supportive and be recognized.
Indeed. There's so much we can still talk about as it relates to mental health. And I don't want people to think mental health means madness. It is just how do you deal with that mental space, particularly within the work environment today. And if you are watching today and you need some further information on how HRMAB can help you here, if you are in HR, do reach out to HR to HRMAB and they can help you. They can give you some really good advice. These two young ladies here know a lot about it, but there are others on the team as well who can assist you and guide you as you go. This is such a rich discussion. I wish we could continue it, but we've got to leave it right there. Thank you so much, Kadisha Haynes and Nicole Gollop, both human
Thank
resource
you.
practitioners and executives.
Thank you for having us.
You're very welcome indeed. All the best. Thank you.
Morning, morning, morning.